top 5 UFC 300 fights that I am personally most excited for this Saturday night. Coming in at number 5, the main event of UFC 300, Alex Pereira versus Jamahal Hill. With a card of this magnitude, we expected a much bigger main event, but all in all, this will be a very entertaining fight between two power hitters inside the light heavyweight division. Alex Pereira is honestly one of the scariest fighters inside the UFC, former middleweight champion, current light heavyweight champion with punching power that can put your lights out in a blink of an eye, taking on Jamahal Hill, who might be one of the more polarizing figures inside the UFC, one of the biggest love him or hate him type fan bases inside the organization, and I guarantee this one's not going all 5 rounds. Somebody's lights are getting put out. Coming in at number 4, Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway for the BMF title, going down in the 155-pound division. I originally was not as excited for this matchup when it was first made. I thought this was going to be bad news for Max Holloway, but the reason why it has made it into my top 5 has been seeing the progression of Max Holloway, getting his body bigger, filling up that 155 frame, honestly looking like a true lightweight. Originally, I had assumed Justin Gaethje would come out there and honestly put Max's lights out within the 5 rounds. Now, I'm way more excited for this matchup, now seeing how Max is bulking up. Now, Justin Gaethje is just as dangerous as he has been his entire career. They don't call him the highlight for nothing. I expect Justin Gaethje to go out there and put on an absolute show, and we know Max never disappoints. Now, given his bigger frame, and I think he's going to be able to hold up for all 5 rounds of Justin Gaethje, I think these guys are going to go at it and provide a hell of a war on Saturday night. Coming in at number 3, I got Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. Charles, the former champion, coming in with all the accolades, all the performance of the night bonuses on the big stage of UFC 300. A fan favorite as well. I think this one bodes well to be a fan-friendly fight, especially since he's taking on Arman Tsarukyan, who is honestly one of the more well-rounded fighters inside the lightweight division. He is a young kid in his 20s, looking to keep climbing the lightweight ranks, coming off 2 knockout victories, looking to get the title shot versus Islam Makhachev. He's going to need to get through a tough opponent in Charles Oliveira to do that. The ground and submission skills and the highlight reel ability of Charles Oliveira versus the tough, gritty, high-paced, well-rounded skill set of Arman Tsarukyan, and this one is going to be a fan-friendly potential fight of the night fight. Coming in at number 2, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt is my second most highly anticipated matchup of UFC 300, and it will be the first fight to kick off the event at 6 p.m. Eastern. Crazy that this is going to be the fight to start the event. That just proves how stacked this entire card is. Now, Deiveson Figueiredo came up from his 125-pound former title holding division to take on Rob Font in his last bout in December, and he honestly looked really good, passed the eye test, and looks like he belongs in this new bantamweight division. And Cody Garbrandt is a fighter that's been around for a long time, also a former champion. Lost a little bit of his game, lost a step for sure, but proved that he was still had a little bit there in 2023 with 2 big wins. He does hold a little bit of aura to me. Whenever I see Cody Garbrandt, I still do get excited to see him fight, even though he might not still be that same guy. So Deiveson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt opening up UFC 300 is definitely my number 2 most anticipated matchup. I think this one might surprise people. If Cody Garbrandt can hang around in there, he's going to give him a fight. And I think this one ends up being a lot more exciting than a lot of people are giving credit for. And coming in as my number 1 most anticipated fight of UFC 300, it is Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. Aljo is coming up from 135 to 145. He will be welcomed by Calvin Kattar, who is coming off a long layoff, coming off a knee injury and surgery and rehab, and he's finally making his UFC return versus an absolute dog and an absolute killer in Aljamain Sterling, former champion, coming up to start his run in a new division. He has to get through Calvin Kattar first. Of course, you know, I might be a little biased. You see the Boston in the back. See the Boston here. Calvin Kattar is a hometown favorite here. He is one of my favorite fighters inside of the UFC. And just given the matchup with Aljamain Sterling, this is going to be a classic grappler versus striker matchup. Calvin has some of the cleanest boxing inside the UFC. Aljamain Sterling has some of the craftiest grappling that we have inside the UFC as well. So this is a classic boxer versus grappler matchup, one that I'm very excited for, and which is why it is my number 1 most anticipated matchup on UFC 300.